5 years ago, early days in my plant journey, I entered a giveaway to win Anthurium veitchii seeds. And I won! It was a Halloween giveaway and we were supposed to film a reel using one of the plants that we purchased from this one particular seller before. And this was my submission. Now I was super excited to win these because there weren't many Anthurium veitchii around in Australia, and the packs of seeds that this seller was selling were always selling out so quickly on Instagram. Like you would need to comment sold within the first 5 seconds or so to actually be able to purchase them in the first place. So when I won them, I was obviously super excited. Now that was also, I believe, the first time growing Anthuriums from seeds. So hello. So of course there was a pretty steep learning curve, and you know, for the first year or two not much happened. Out of all the seeds, I'm pretty sure just 1 or 2 even survived, and those weren't really growing well. And because it was early days in my plant journey, early days with Anthuriums, early days germinating seeds and growing from seed, I kind of just blamed myself. But 5 years later, this is the only surviving plant from that batch of seeds. It had times where it looked slightly better, had a few more leaves. We just came out of winter and I might have neglected it a little bit, but it pretty much stayed similar to this over the last 5 years. Sometimes it has a few more leaves, then it goes back to being a stump, has some pest issues, some fungal issues. Overall, just it never ever went through a period of actually thriving. And yeah, initially I was blaming myself, but eventually, you know, in year 2, 3, 4 of growing this plant and having so much success with so many other plants and having tried it in various different conditions, from IKEA cabinet to out in my garden, to my greenhouse, to indoor conditions, bright light, low light, high humidity, low humidity, grow light, sunshine, rain, thunder, storm, blizzard, anything. I tried everything and nothing really worked. So eventually I realized, you know what, it's not me, it's the plant. Now the question is it the species? Am I just really unsuccessful in growing Anthurium veitchii? Or is it the specimen? Is this particular Anthurium veitchii maybe just a dud? Because especially when growing from seeds, not all plants have the same vigor, right? Not all plants have the same desire to live. So maybe I just got unlucky and my seeds were a dud. So a year ago I decided maybe it's time to give Anthurium veitchii another chance, and this time around I ended up purchasing a tissue culture plant. So in today's video we're unboxing that little tissue culture plant, and then we're following its journey over the course of 12 months to see if maybe I have better luck growing Anthurium veitchii the second time around. Hey everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. The intro said it all. Let's take it back to Jan from 12 months ago when I first made the purchase. On that note, I would appreciate for you to give this video a thumbs up, leave a nice comment down below and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Breddles and I would very much appreciate it. It's for free for you, but honestly means the world to us. In advance, thank you so much, but let's go back a year ago. Yes, my darling, are you going to help me? I've got happiness sent in a box to me today. I made a few plant purchases. I think it was shipped on Monday and today is Wednesday. So it's only been in the post for a couple of days. So let's have a look at what's in the box. Remember how I said Anthurium veitchii is not my plant to grow? Well, I changed my mind and I bought another one. I'm really hoping that the first one I tried to grow, which was from seed, was kind of just a dud. So this time around I got a little tissue culture baby. Alrighty, so let's have a look at the root system of this cute little veitchii and then I'll show it to you up close. I really want veitchii to work for me. I really want to make this work. I think it's a stunning plant and it would add a little bit of interest to my existing Anthurium collection, right? Like most of the Anthuriums that I've got are kind of like veiny, velvety ones. So this one would be very different to the ones I already have, from a texture, from a shape and so on. But the one I've had, and I've had for I think 4 years almost, or almost 4 years. I think 4 years ago there was a Christmas, no, 4 years ago there was a Halloween giveaway which I won, and I won a pack of veitchii seeds, which used to be super in demand. I think the pack of 10 seeds would have cost me $250 if I wouldn't have won it. So, and they were very desirable, like they were selling out like hotcakes. Out of those seeds, really only one made it, and it's still a very disappointing tiny plant. And when I kind of complained about it in a video the other day, some people were like, you know what, maybe it's just a dud, maybe try again, maybe don't give up on it, because there seem to be a lot of people that have a really easy time with them. Alrighty, I can see some roots down here dangling. It is very small. Out of all the tissue culture plants, this is probably one of the smallest ones I've ever grown. But it's okay. Let's fiddle that back in here without destroying everything. It's definitely sufficiently moist. And as always, I'm gonna do nothing straight away. I'm just gonna sit tight and let this grow a little bit stronger with a little more roots, and we'll take it from there. So for now, I'll pop this into my IKEA cabinet and I'll see you when there's updates to share. We're back. It's been 3 weeks. One teeny tiny leaf has grown, but I have to say the root system isn't looking super promising, but there are some new roots showing over here. I don't like these tiny pots because they dry out really quickly because, well, there's not much volume in there. And I can't see the root health. So despite the fact that it's not outgrown this little pot just yet, I would love to give this a new medium. Unfortunately, the smallest pot I've got is 10 centimeters, so it will just go in there. It is probably slightly big for it, but that is okay. It's quite a chunky mix, so I'm not worried about there being too much water retention. And I won't put a layer of moss on top because the pot is quite large. So yeah. At least now I can spy on the root health without having to take it out of this little pot over and over again. So hopefully I'm not kind of causing more issues. Anyway, I will see you when there's updates to share. And we are back. It has almost been 3 months and I didn't forget to update you. There was just genuinely nothing to update you on. There is a new leaf over here, and if you're looking really closely, you can see a little bit of those like ribbing, the apps kind of starting to come through. And it's definitely an increase in leaf size, but it is not necessarily shooting the lights out. Oh well, gotta stay patient. Well, I gotta stay a little more patient than you because I'm gonna put this back in my IKEA cabinet and wait a couple of months. But for you, the next update is coming up now. This is not the speed in which I wanted this plant to grow. I wanted to kind of have confirmation that it's not me, it's the plant, but I think it's me because this one is also growing so slow. It's been 3 months. In the last update, I think this leaf was unfurling. It is now unfurling a new one. We are seeing an increase in leaf size, but especially given how juvenile the leaves are, usually juvenile leaves grow quite fast and in quick progression. That sort of time frame between growing leaves, like 3 months between leaves, is usually something I would expect of an extremely mature plant that takes like 2 months to unfurl the leaf in the first place. I'm not too sure, but I can see some root growth here. I just watered it, so it looks very dark, the substrate, and very wet. I don't know. I mean, we are going slightly better than the first time I tried this plant, but it's not really giving me confidence that this is going to grow into something nice anytime soon. But you know what? Time will tell. And I mean, it is technically a high altitude plant, so it should like cooler temperatures. So maybe us going into winter is really going to bring out the best in this plant. Maybe, baby. You know what? Time will tell. So let's stay patient. And here we are. It has been 5.5 months. And look, the reason why I haven't really updated you on anything is because in those 5.5 months, I have had 1 new leaf. Whoop, whoop. Now, let's have a look at that leaf though, because it is nice. I like this leaf. It is a beautiful leaf. It is exactly what I want from this plant. and it is a significant increase to this leaf over here. Now it is also pushing out a new caterpillar over here for a new leaf, and I'm sure you can't see anything in the pot, but there are actually quite a few healthy roots. There's just so much algae after being in the IKEA cabinet for a year. But I can definitely see really decent root health. I just don't want to take it out of this pot to kind of cause any stress, because we're already going really slow with this plant. And you would have noticed this plant spotlight is much shorter than my normal plant spotlights. I honestly just don't have much to say about this plant. Honestly, not much happened with this plant, so there wasn't all too much to share with you. And that in itself is probably one of the main learnings of this video. There's a saying called, in the first year they sleep, in the second year they creep, in the third year they leap. Well, in the first year this plant was definitely sleeping. So I've had this for a year, and granted, it started off as the tiniest little plant. So percentage-wise, we have actually seen a decent increase, but you wouldn't look at this plant and be like, yeah, 1 year of growing in perfect conditions. You would probably, if you would pick up this plant at a shop, you would probably still think it's a really small plant. And I got this one at the same time as, for example, my variegated Scindapsus, which I've done a full plant spotlight on as well, which hopefully you've seen. That is one of my favorite plant spotlights I've actually done in a long time. And with that plant, purchased at the same time, came as a cutting rather than a little tissue culture plant, was a little bit larger already, but still, with that plant, it has absolutely shot the lights out. I have a big mother plant now on top of having 5 propagations of this plant. So a lot happened with my Scindapsus in the same time frame as this. They're exposed to the same conditions, they get the same treatment and so on. But obviously they're completely different plants. But it just shows that, you know, plants don't work on a schedule. I suppose this plant is just a little bit slow, at least for me. I do plant spotlights not to show you how fast a plant can grow. I mean, sometimes that is the purpose of this plant spotlight, if it works out that way. The main idea behind plant spotlights is really to give you a realistic insight what it's like to grow a specific plant. And realistically, not much has happened with this plant over this year. And that is also okay, you know. I mean, if I would have no other plants, that would definitely be really disappointing, because I would love this plant to grow a little bit faster and fill my space. But because I have so many plants by now anyway, I'm not really mad about having a plant that's a little bit slower of a grower, as long as I feel like there is an upwards trajectory, which is definitely the case with this plant. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I think this is a good representation of that. Now, I do see a lot of mature veitchii being grown indoors, so I don't think that fundamentally it's impossible to make it work. I don't think I have the wrong conditions either. It's been in my IKEA cabinet, and that's pretty close to its natural conditions. It likes really high humidity. It's a rainforest plant, can grow in high-ish altitudes, and in the last video I said the cooler temperatures. I'm not mean freezing, but I just mean more like it doesn't mind 16, 17, 18 degrees. It doesn't need like 25, 26, 27, right? So that's kind of what it was exposed to. So the temperature ranges, the humidity around 90%, should all be pretty good for this plant. I honestly think it's just maybe a slow grower. Maybe that's the case. Do you guys have experience with that? I also think that a lot of people might have gotten Anthurium veitchii from a more established cutting already, especially when you see them quite mature in people's collections. I don't know. Do people grow it from really tiny to really mature in their indoor space successfully? Or do people get more mature species? I'm not too sure. But from my experience with this one as well as this one, it's like, well, starting from seed or starting from a tiny tissue culture plant will definitely test your patience. So having a plant that stays small and compact for a few years before you really need to commit a lot of space to it might not even be such a negative thing. But overall, honestly, I don't have all too much to say about this plant. It was just really uneventful, and I think that's really the bottom line of this video. Just because you've grown a plant for a year does not mean that a lot has happened, right? With some plants, it does. Like my Scindapsus, let's take it back to that. I had to do a repot, an extension, a chop and extend. I had to treat it for aphids multiple times. There was fungal issues and so on, right? So there was a lot going wrong, but there was a lot going right as well. well. Overall, just high involvement. At the same time, all I've done with this plant is repot it once, hang it in the IKEA cabinet, and just spray a little bit of water on the layer of moss once it feels dry. That's it. So basically, not much effort, but also not that much of a reward. Not all plants will be super rewarding to grow, especially if we consider that we all have different conditions available, get our hands on different specimen, grown from seed, grown from tissue culture, grown from cuttings and so on. There's a lot of variance over here, and at the end of the day, nature doesn't follow a schedule. Anyway, I'll wrap it up because I don't have all too much to say about this anymore, but I would love for somebody who's growing Anthurium veitchii successfully to take this opportunity and give us some help in the comment section. That would be appreciated. Thank you for watching. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video.